Hi, everybody. It's Steve Olson, WSO, June 28th, 2016. I'm here with my dear friend and partner in the ministry, Wayne Steiger. Wayne, how are you today?
Blessings, Steve. I'm doing well. The smoke is a little heavy, but that's okay. That's from the forest fires. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I spent a little time out in the wilderness reconnecting myself to my survival skills. Survived a major thunderstorm and survived it and brought all my men back alive.
You accomplished the mission. Bravo.
Yeah, we did this canoe trip on the Wisconsin River, and it's a wonderful river to canoe, and you can really get into wildlife. We got to see bald eagle nests, saw a lot of different animals, and just had a really good time. So what did you do last weekend?
You know, I mostly read. Really into a number of books, and so one of them is I've been doing the study as to who is Lucifer, and that has been a very interesting study, to say the least. But other than that, besides the event that took place on Saturday, as you know, I was sending you text, and by the way, John Moore had mentioned insects. How many were out there when you were out doing your survival test?
Okay, so my youngest son, who's a complete skeptic and thinks I'm in a cult right now.
Okay.
I told him before this, I said, listen, I talked to this guy named John Moore, told him who John Moore was, and I explained to him, he said that there was a noticeable difference in insect population and life on the East Coast. And I've noticed on the farm that we haven't had, today was the first time I saw flies on my horses. Do you know how unusual that is? So I started noticing this after John told me this, and the river was virtually free of insects. This is the Wisconsin River. The Wisconsin River is the most insect-laden place on this earth, other than the Amazon, maybe. And I'm not kidding. I mean, usually you have to basically paste on a half-inch of DEET. And we do this on purpose because it's a place that nobody goes because the insects are so bad sometimes, right?
Well, I can report as well.
Any insects.
My brother.
Go ahead.
My brother down in Houston talked to him last night. Now, Houston is much like you were describing your river. If there's mosquitoes, they're going to be there. In fact, you could probably find them by species. He said that this year, virtually no mosquitoes. And by the way, the beginning of this spring, as you know, the whole Houston area was just inundated with floods.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Just a little more piece of collaboration of testimonies from people who are saying, hey, something's up.
Well, again, this is why, the collaboration, the corroboration of WSO is so meaningful to me and a lot of people. Most of all, is meaningful to me. If anybody wants to know, I appreciate the people that I'm coming in contact, the information I'm coming in contact. I think more than anybody, because I'm one of those people, I cannot just walk past a mystery. I can't do it. And, so anyway, here, I got a couple pictures up, and then I want to talk today a little bit about time wave theory. And the reason, and I know a lot of folks probably never heard of this, and the first time you Google time wave, what you're going to get is Terence McKenna. And I know Terence McKenna was a psychonaut and all kinds of stuff that we can talk about. But Wayne is going to we want to talk about the Elon Musk version of the time wave theory, not necessarily the Terence McKenna one. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but I want to go through some science stuff here first. So the first thing is this, from the 20th, we've got these very attentive subscribers in WSO, and these are usually one frame anomalies that they catch on these various instruments that are out there. And then here we got, Core 2, which is one of the satellites we use to look at the coronal area of the sun and look at coronal mass ejections and so forth. And here we've got this very strange multi-orb. And what's most interesting, as I focus in on the top orb, it's eclipsed. So what you're really seeing here is an eclipsed sun refraction. That's my opinion. But whatever that object is, it's eclipsed multiple times. Or either that, or it's a repeating refraction. But again, these instruments are not prone to refractive behavior. They're not like an optical lens where that kind of thing can happen. These are instruments that are finely tuned. You know what I mean? I don't understand why an image like this would appear on this camera that would be an anomaly. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out here, which is pretty interesting, is if you look right in this area here, you've got two big either clouds or, my friends, they could be orbs.
Well, Steve, let's stop and talk about this. So everyone knows this is the satellite looking back at Earth. It's behind the sun, looking at the sun and the Earth, right? This is the correct set.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for explaining that to the audience. That's exactly what this is.
This is, all right, so the very center, the white circle, is the size of the sun. Just so everyone knows, the black one, it's literally a ladle that's sitting on the camera eye. You can actually see the ladle as it's going from the base of the camera going out.
Right. And
this is a disturbing.
This is very disturbing. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, Wayne. Please continue.
Well, Steve, why I'm disturbed about this, because, all right, if you look at this, where you have this that you're going to talk about, I'm looking at the very top.
Get to your microphone.
Yeah, it's Steve. I'm actually sitting right on top of it. It's actually, I think, our connection.
Okay. Sorry.
But this is a very disturbing picture. I'll leave it at that. This is one that makes you go hum.
Yeah, let me walk through this for the people that are new, possibly to the channel. We've been looking at Core 2, at least I've been looking at Core 2 in detail for images all the way back to 2008. I probably looked at least 10,000 Core 2 images since I started this channel, okay? And so whenever we get an anomaly like this, there's a lot of information in here that we've covered in the past that we kind of skip over. The first thing is, why do I have black shadows coming off a Core 2 image?
I don't know.
Though that would indicate that there's not just an occlusion or some kind of weirdness. There's something occluding the light in those two black beams, if you will. Those are two objects that are blocking the light of the sun.
And they're big.
And they're big. So we've talked about those before, guys. The second thing I want to point out to beginners to the channel is this little horseshoe right here. No one has been able to explain to me what that horseshoe is satisfactorily yet. Wayne, has anybody been able to explain that horseshoe to you yet?
No, they have not. Okay,
so we don't even know what that is. Last thing, and this is one that Thor does a great job with. If you don't know who Thor News is, he's tongue-in-cheek, he's comedy, he's lighthearted, he's a wonderful artist, but he puts out some great videos on the sun. And one of them is this, he calls this the sun baby. And when you see this in motion, stop motion, there's like the sun baby that appears here, and they keep blocking. This seems like it's being painted out. So this is just for our beginning user, you know, let alone the other stuff that Wayne and I are talking about. These are anomalies that we see on Core 2 100% of the time. And nobody can explain it, and nobody wants to explain it. I'll give it a try. That is that little pulsar star, or whatever the scientists might call it, that's stuck to my sun right now.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and that's why we're getting this super, this is why we're getting the super UV effect. And if you go to Mr. MBB333 channel, he has acquired instruments now, everybody, where he is looking at the UV rays with science, and he has shown without a doubt that UV rays are completely off the charts on the Earth right now. Sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
No, he's absolutely right. They are off the charts, and we're not talking by a few percentages. We're talking double. That's a great video that he did. Yeah. Steve, this is just, I'm looking at this as you were talking, to actually capture an eclipse taking place, whether this is the sun being eclipsed or something else. This is very disturbing. I just got to tell you, when I'm looking at this, it's more telling or foreboding than anything else.
It is, and then so let's get back to the newer stuff on here, right? So we've got the reason that an eclipse showing up on Core 2 is so important, everybody, is because we didn't have any eclipses scheduled for the sun or any other object in our area on the 20th. Okay, so this is it's just not right to see something like this. It suggests a secondary body in our solar system is what it does. Okay. So that's kind of why we're talking about it. And then these two big things here down here, Wayne, these two things, I always used to think these were clouds until Samuel Hoffman circled them for me and showed that they could possibly be two mega planets or mega objects out there. And yeah, one of the things that I want to be careful on is that really my position on it is it's both. Yes, we have these big objects nearby, but they're not a threat to us or anything. They're just huge in the sky. And these are bodies that are very far away, even though they appear to be very large in the sky, and they actually fill up the whole sky. The southern hemisphere, it was a perfectly clear night. We had a telescope. We could not see one star in the southern hemisphere out in the river. And we were able to catch the rings of Saturn. We were able to see 6 of the moons of Jupiter. We had a great viewing night straight over our heads, but we could not see anything in the southern hemisphere.
That's disturbing. What is up?
I'm just telling you my observations, you guys. And then lastly, while we're on the UV topic, I have bought a lot of suntan lotion over the last 20 years. I have kids. We're Disney World people. We like to go to Disney World every so often, and it's always like you got to go buy the right UV for your kids so that they don't fry and die and all that, right? So I have noticed over the course of the last 20 years, it used to be that SPF 15 was a really heavy-duty block, or 20, you'd be like, geez, man, that's almost like wearing a coat. Well, now you go into the stores, I notice it's the minimum that you see now is 30, and standard is UV 50, and then they even go higher than 50 now. So even the sunblock companies have had to increase their formulas in order to provide legitimate sunburn protection from their products. Is anybody paying attention to me? I'm sorry, Wayne.
Well, I'm listening. I'm not going outside.
No, the point I want to make, though, as a safety and health issue, just for the subscribers that listen, is to say that, yes, UV 50 or above, try to avoid the sun if you can. That's
seriously.
So the second thing I wanted to bring up was on the 23rd, our wonderful IRF, the Swedish, who do not lie and do not hide the information from their people, God bless them, and their magnetic field data and the variation of the magnetic North Pole just went completely whacked out on the 24th. Sorry, 623 and 624.
Yes, yes.
And
Steve, I can report on this as well. I was recording in videoed. We had, again, wide magnetic swing on the compass.
Well, okay. Charlie has to make his announcement, and he has to make his presence known on every video. So anyway, no. Yes, I wanted to actually point out an observation along this line, and many observations, by the way, and the variation between, and these are amateurs that are using their compasses and all that kind of stuff. Sunrises and sunsets, I have enough data now logged. It's really been about 17 degrees too far north, both on sunrise and sunset, Wayne. And this particular observation shows 295 degrees, which is about, I don't know, 10 degrees or something like that off. But the point is that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me more about magnetic anomalies that you guys were observing again, the jumping of the compass and so forth.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Mr. MV. He was actually one, because I was recording it here. I got a place set up now in my garage that, is free of any type of electrical or magnetic, anything that's in there, because I want to get a good reading. And he showed something that actually crossed the northern hemisphere. And Steve, just looking at it from a layman's point of view, I would have swore that what I was actually witnessing was a passing over the northern hemisphere of something. We know this, that it affected the magnetic poles, it impacted the magnetosphere, and the thing that was so, well, made it very compelling was the fact that, Steve, you could actually see the progression as it was going from an east to west progression.
Okay. So let's spend a moment. Oh gosh, I just closed your time wave theory slide. Okay.
It's okay.
I'm coming back to time wave. Don't worry.
Okay.
So here we are. The reason I wanted to show this with you, Wayne, this particular photograph, again, this is in the United States, Eastern United States. Well, you know, she's an older lady, cannot leave her home. This is a window facing northeast. It is about 8:30 p.m. after a thunderstorm, and she saw a light source here and a rainbow over here. And again, the sunset was behind her, just so you guys know.
Well, she's recording what others are showing us, Steve. There's a secondary light source coming up from the eastern horizon.
Thank you.
By the way, this rainbow, so I'm seeing the same thing here. You know, is that all rainbows? Yes, they're supposed to have an arch. Steve, I'm seeing more and more of these rainbows that are more in the red spectrum, and that they're also either being squashed. In other words, you could almost see it becoming like it's being stretched out and pushed down to the ground, or they're doing much like this, they're going straight up.
Yep. And so there's a couple different possibilities. We could be seeing a refracted view projected off the cloud rain layer of the Earth of an atmosphere of another planet. That's our theory, guys.
You know,
that's our theory.
Unless they get it better.
Again, I'm not, and this comes right from Sam Hoffman. And I have not been avoiding Sam on purpose, but I haven't been talking to him. And the reason for that is because I got to a point, and I should have explained this to you, Sam. I got to a point where I needed to form my own opinions based on my own observations, Sam. And while we are coming around to some of what you're saying, I think it's a combination of, yes, there were large bodies that show this kind of a refraction, etc. But there's also the smaller planets and smaller bodies that we've been seeing too that are closer to the Earth and maybe not these huge gas giants and things like that. So it's, to me, it's starting to look like both theories and both approaches to observation may be correct.
And Steve, could I interject something here? You know, Dr. Carlos Ferrada, you know, the Chilean astronomer, I read some of his work this weekend because I got in my book from our astrophysicist, as she recommended, the one book on the redshift cosmology. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Ferrada, if you study what he wrote, he said that this system will rewrite the laws of physics. He also said that it will become very confusing to the human eye perception as to defining what is an object, how does it look, and how does it act. And you were just talking about Sam and his theory. I have to say there's validity that I see in the hypothesis. I really do.
Well, this is the most disturbing set of images I've received in the last several months. I'm doing one video just on this, but I want to give you a sneak peek. This is one from one of our very good observers out there, and they're all good observers. I don't mean to put anybody down when I say that. All observations are welcome, and we look at everything with a very open, hopefully an open mind. But this particular set of images just blew my mind because, let me show you in the beginning here. And I'll just roll it up here. And I slightly enhance this start of the picture. And what I'm seeing here is an orb, our big red orb. And I don't mean to lead the audience here with a hole in it. I enhanced it here, and then I go through this video as this guy is kind of taping the sky. And that, first of all, that's pretty disturbing, number one. That looks like a planet, man. I don't care what you guys say. And then I went back to just his normal shot in the normal view.
You know, focus that is.
And I'm going to push ahead a little bit. So he's doing this observation, and I got to get to this one here point of it, Wayne. I'm sorry. I don't mean to slow it down here at the talk. But check this out. Then all of a sudden he catches this chemtrailer coming over in the same spot where that red object was.
Here they come.
And it's actually so red, the light reflecting off of whatever that is up in the sky, that it causes the chemtrail to turn red. Either that, or they are, and by the way, he put this up on his Facebook and they censored it and edited it.
That
For what? Content that may be mind expanding?
No, because I think that this is one they don't want people to see.
right there, my friends.
No, and for good reason. And look at what's happening, Steve, as it's being obfuscated, as it's passing by the object.
Sunlight probably finally penetrating through the ultraviolet light and bouncing back to show us.
And of course, I'm going to leave his commentary, because I'm not going to really, I don't think I'm going to add anything to this. I'm just going to have a comment in the video, and it's just going to say, why do you think Facebook edited this video, and just see what people think if they see the same thing I saw. And I'll put my manipulative part.
Steve,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Wayne.
No, I was just, we got some of the best members out there. This is just outstanding. What presence of mind to be able to see that. And listen, I often think sometimes we're like in the theater in the round. We got just such great people and great skills that they're putting in that sometimes the stage as it comes around, we catch these.
Yeah, because we're all learning together how to see it, right? Thank you, Sam Hoffman. Thank you, Sharon Harbeck. Thank you, all of the different researchers that have been doing this, Marshall and everybody. But again, this is what happens when there's a collective of people that work together, and that's why we're getting this evidence. And anyway, that's the kind. Those are some of the highlights. But you want to talk about time wave theory now?
Yeah, I just have one thing. We had one person, Lynn, who had requested, do we know where the system is actually in the sky right now? And the only thing I can tell people is go back and look at the video that you and I did. This thing's moving fast, so and it's becoming very apparent that we're seeing much more now. I think, Steve, in the next 3 months, it's just going to become too overwhelming, which is a great feed-in to what we're seeing here. I think we're going to see this object in the sky, and I think this chart particularly is telling humanity, mankind, something's about to happen.
Well, here we are right in the middle of it. And, okay, so explain this chart, Wayne, before we move off, because okay.
Yeah. So can you hear me good?
I'll be the, for lack of a better word, devil's advocate, okay?
Sure.
I'll be time wave theory skeptic, okay?
Okay.
I have heard that time wave theory came from the psychedelic experience of Terence McKenna, and it's just a bunch of pseudoscience.
No, and that's what the debunkers would want you to think. Actually, McKenna actually acknowledged where he got the idea, and the formula, by the way, is actually from I Ching. This came from the Qing dynasty almost 5,000 years ago.
What variables did they use to calculate, do you know?
Well, the Chinese were some of the best astronomers out there, and I will send you the actual chart McKenna used in building this algorithm.
Okay.
So just to let everyone know, this has a root that goes back millennia ago.
And what is the lines kind of represent? Does that represent something like a vibration, or what does that mean?
Yeah. Excellent question, Steve. So understand, timeline zero theory is this. Everything works on a frequency. Everything. Our bodies work on a frequency. Every person here generates their own electromagnetic field. You have a registrable electrical output of your body. Your body is influenced by other frequencies. We call them radio waves, microwaves, gamma rays, cosmic waves. all of these have an impact. Now, the theory is that the universe has a vibration and a wave as well, that it can be detected and it can be tracked. What McKenna found out and what the theory is, and by the way, if you don't think the elites are not following this, folks, wake up. You know, I follow Elon Musk. To me, I think the man is a modern day Tesla. And on Friday, he mentioned time wave theory. And so it caused everyone to go back and say, all right, well, can we see what they're talking about? So what we have here, Steve, as you can see, would you point up over here to March? Right. So we see each dip is a vibration that's hitting, you can call it the consciousness of humanity, whatever. The higher the frequency, the more stable things are. That's world governments, economies, etc. It's not to say that you don't have glitches, as you can see. They have been able, Steve, to take this back to the beginning of recorded time. That's how far now that they've been working on this. Well, they've known about this for months, and what the wave showed was that starting in May, the end of May, the beginning of June, it drops nearly 40 points slide. They have never seen this before. 9/11 only produced a minor 10-point, 11-point drop. 2008, September 28th, we all know that. It is a day that lives in infamy, folks. That's the day, by the way, just so everybody knows, the Great Depression started. We've never gotten out of the Great Depression, folks. But anyway, it did not register nearly as a 10, 12-point drop. But look what happens here, Steve, and this is what's got everybody freaked out. On Friday, June 24th, 2016, was a day that was exactly 777 days since the stock market crash of 2008. It gets stranger. It goes down to the very minute, the play of sevens that came in. So we know this. Something is going to happen, folks, in July. Something, I don't know what it is, Steve. All I know is this. I think that we're all thinking sentient beings. If you just put the data that you alone, Steve, have been able to put in this receptacle called WSO, and you start looking at this chart, you cannot help but say something is happening. Something is going to happen. So, folks, this is what the elite are looking at. We should look at it as well.
All right, so let's play around with this just from a theory. Let's play around with brainstorming. And guys, brainstorming doesn't mean I believe anything I'm going to say. I'm just trying to think it through and just throw out ideas. Could this be? Okay, first of all, we haven't had a DEFCON 3 since '61, so I'm pretty convinced, based on the multiple sources I have, that DEFCON 3 started in June. I'm pretty the evidence, again, I cannot, and no one could, properly vet the evidence that's pouring in right now. It's not just one or two guys seeing something from Newmeyer Station in South Pole. This is like everyday, normal, working folk going out, walking their dogs, looking out their windows, that kind of thing. And again, it's really easy to find evidence. Let's just put it that way. And since we have the collective here, where people can send their stuff and get properly vetted, I don't think it's a coincidence. And then finally, if this could indicate the sighting of the system, the worldwide panic that ensues, and then you've got a dead cat bounce that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Dead cat bounce in the stock market is where everything crashes, but then you get a little bounce of the dead cat off the floor, and there's a little rise, and then things go back down into the critical. Well, I believe that the dead cat bounce could be the Church of Yahweh, the Church of Yeshua HaMashiach, doing the miracles that we were promised that we were going to do, and in order to bring as many people into the fold prior to the, to kind of the hard time. Just a
Could
theory.
be.
Just
Yeah.
throwing them out there. Because I really do believe that there's going to be a period of time where the church is going to rise. But then I believe also that the church is going to come under great stress. And so that's my belief, you guys. I know you all have your own beliefs, and I respect you so much about your own beliefs. And I'm not so locked down in my own that I hopefully I'm not delusional or anything. I probably am. But point being is that these are things that have been spoken into my heart for a long time. And so when I see something like this, it doesn't surprise me.
Well, I can tell you how I look at this from the financial markets and the geopolitical thing. I personally interpret this as an upheaval in the current economic geopolitical system. To validate that, we all know what happened on Friday. That was the start of the exit from Great Britain. What disturbs
the European Union, yeah,
the BRICS. So what I find disturbing is that this is going to happen around the middle of July. So we are, folks, at the very best, 17 days and counting. There's an event coming up with Jupiter here on the 9th. But if you look at this, Steve, and you follow it up, the shock that hits is going to take a little bit. You can see that something happens. It's going to, like you said, the dead count bounce. Folks, that is actually getting ready for the elections, which tells me that they're going to do their best, whatever they can do to give a sense of stability, something. But what really gets off, and I don't have the chart going further than this. We're looking into that now. But going into 2017, folks, there's no recovery, Steve, back to where we were in May, and that's the point.
Right. So just I want to kind of echo something that James Madden, who's the global director of our groups, said to me yesterday. And by the way, he works closely with me. He has not once tried to take anything away from me or be anything other than a man of God with me. And he has taken the reins of that whole thing. But he said it to me yesterday. He says, you've got to repeat it over and over again. 3 months worth of food, 3 months worth of food, 3 months worth of food, 3 months worth of food. And the way you get to 3 months worth of food if you don't have any money or very little money is a big bag of dry beans and a big bag of dry rice, and you put it into some kind of sealed container, and then you make sure you have access to water, and those two things will keep you alive.
They will. And folks, there is a shortage of pinto beans. I know for us, well, I've had pinto beans all my life, Steve, but I can tell you, you folks need to really wake up. You don't have to have a lot of money. Don't buy into this. Listen, pinto beans and rice can go a long ways when the stomach is growling.
Just make sure you have some Tabasco sauce hidden away somewhere.
There you go, and that's cheap.
See,
Steve,
yeah, and again, not everybody's going to be able to have the bunker, but and I'm not. This is not for this is not to do fear porn or anything like that. If you have 3 months worth of rice and beans or canned foods or just whatever, right? Enough food to keep you guys your family going for a couple for 3 months at a minimum. So what? Let's say that all this stuff is just pure crap. Okay, it's completely stupid. Well, look what happened in Venezuela. That didn't take a natural calamity to cause the downfall of their economy. So all of a sudden people are fighting for food and stuff, and it's only been a couple weeks into that, or a couple months into that crisis. Well, people with their rice and beans stored up and stuff can stay at home and avoid the riot.
Yeah. And by the way, Steve, it's ongoing. It's getting worse down in Venezuela, and if that contagion spreads, you don't need to worry about something in the celestial heavens. But by the way, I happen to think that there is a correlation in the prophecies, whether you're taking John the Revelator, you're going into the Hopi, you take the bronze books, all these ancient manuscripts, all of these different cultures saw something happening. Is this wormwood? Is this an asteroid strike that hits in the middle of July? I don't know.
I don't know. Nobody does. These aren't prophetical. cosmology, I'll even say that there is kind of a pseudoscience to it on the other hand, it's based on observation as opposed to cause and effect, right? So in my understanding of the time wave, the ancient Chinese weren't trying to say that we're trying to predict anything like specific, but what they're saying is that we can kind of see when things are from a cosmic perspective. That includes a lot of different art forms of looking at celestial events, blah, 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 blah. So on the one hand, you don't want to get too worried about it, but on the other hand, the time wave, based on my study of it, Wayne, since you talked to me about it, I went and researched it. It's been pretty accurate.
Yeah, who was it that I saw? Oh, I tell you, I saw a very famous basketball player, and he came out and he said, I let down my teammates 86% of the time. I was only successful less than 43% of the time. And of course, it was Michael Jordan. My point to this is that, folks, listen, if you think that this is complicated, you ought to see an arbitrage program that brokers and traders use. I'll guarantee you the algorithms are much more complex. So I think that, Steve, there is some validity to this. They say that there's a 77% accuracy in what this chart has shown over millennia. I'll take 77% any day.
Well, okay, so you know where the statistic comes from that says that every day you have a 0.03% chance of dying? You know where that statistic comes from?
No.
Comes from the insurance industry. They're called actuaries. They go to school to do this, and you will not believe how precise those actuaries can be on predicting death rates, disease rates, all kinds of things that they can predict with their actuarial models. It's almost like black magic. When I worked in the insurance industry, I could not believe their accuracy based on these algorithms. So if you're telling me that they can do observations and predict death and life cycles of human beings based on just a few variables that they get, that the Chinese were so stupid that they couldn't put together an actuarial model.
Yeah. Okay, and by the way, we know the Chinese actually had the first computer. So those guys knew a little bit about what they were talking about.
All right. So the next thing I wanted to go to real quick is a little bit of a kind of a disturbing trend that's going on right now with the All Skycam network. And we've been getting most of our best imagery from the Moonglow Observatory. As of this morning at 12:01 UTC, which would have been 6:41 Central Daylight Time, they took the camera offline.
Did they?
Yeah. And what you see is, I mean, it's getting to the point where you can, and then also the other one that went offline, and I'll see if it's still offline here. Remember where we were seeing the really, kind of vivid thing that we were debating in Hong Kong?
Mm-hmm.
Hong Kong was taken offline as well. So I just wanted to point out that the best cameras that we're seeing right now have been kind of tampered with. They might come back online. They often do, but I just wanted to just kind of point that out. The next thing,
it makes sense.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It makes sense. I mean, listen, we got the debunkers and they say how the all sky cams are this and that, but you know what? I've seen enough of them to say, listen, they're showing something, folks, and say what it is, but there is something out there.
This is the Weather Cam network in Australia. Looked like a rock in the sky.
Why, yes, it did.
This again, I'm just going to use this time to get your thoughts on these subscriber photos. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, sir, I can.
I just want to double check here because I hate having to go back and build it back in again. But anyway, so here, this person actually got a pretty stable look at a couple orbs behind the sun and was disturbed by the red color above the sun, which I saw on the 25th as well, but I didn't have anything to film it or anything. Then I got a series that I put into the video yesterday's video, that clearly showed a huge object over the sun at sunset in Fort Lauderdale.
Steve, I think that what people are starting to see here now are, in fact, celestial objects, whether they're moons, whether they're planets. And I think that this is only going to get more intense. So well done, folks.
Yep. Here's this is actually one from Moonglow from yesterday.
Why, look at our little green friend.
Yep, and the actual object is here.
Yep. Yep. So this is a good one to really talk about here. So folks, you can see what happens here. That is an object. You know, I don't care what people say. They can say it's a refraction. You know, I hear what you're saying. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But look how it magnifies and it casts off refraction on that, Steve. So people, this is what you need to be looking for.
Right. And again, you know, not fear porn, not trying to get you scared for the sake of being scared, but don't be catatonic. Put your heart in and you got to work out your own spiritual path. I get that. My God is Jesus Christ. But his real name is Yeshua HaMashiach, and he is cool, and you can come to him. I know he'll accept you, but work it out. Second thing is you got to have 3 months food and water. And then third, you got to have a plan for what you're going to do. So that's why we're talking about this. We're not talking about this to scare you into catatonic. We're talking about this so that you can take action to protect your family. Okay? So that's where we're at on this. So the FAA network has been just a huge source of information lately, Wayne. And what's interesting about this one is, let's see, it's facing west. And it is the 26th at 11:27, so that means that the sun would be behind you.
Look, and that's not the moon.
Yet. It could be the moon, I suppose.
Well, no, I mean, you know, these are the things we have to look at. But, okay, so I know here that the moon rose at about 3:20 a.m. here in Denver this morning. So I don't think that that's the moon, Steve. I think we've caught something there.
Right. And so those FAA, and if you go to their website, this website here, it actually has a list of all these visual cams. And it's important that the pilots know what the conditions look like. That's why they provide this visual tool for the pilots, and they're not taking it down because they can't. But, you know, you know, this is the same direction, same time of day from northern United States.
Look at that. Outstanding.
See another couple good ones, and then we'll wrap it up for today, Wayne. But like I said, I can't keep up with the evidence at this point. But we are going to add staff. This is Hong Kong, and now it's offline. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Can you blow that up, Steve?
Did it blow up?
Yeah, it did. Well, that's a peculiar picture.
It sure is. First of all, there's some kind of black orb at the tip of it.
Now that is exactly what drew my attention. And look at what's trailing behind that. Look at that.
What are we looking at here, Wayne?
Well, that's clearly something there. I mean,
is this like a trail of cloud?
Well, I believe, yes, that's what I was looking at, was literally what appears to me to be, whatever you want to call it, there is trailing matter behind that orb.
That's what
now, is this a secondary reaction to the atmosphere? I don't know. But I think I can see one of the culprits.
Well, let's just also add that on the 28th, as of 11:05 a.m. Central Daylight Time, the Hong Kong camera is not up.
Something's up. Okay.
So that was interesting, I think. Hey,
Well,
I gotta show the picture because this particular subscriber she took maybe 1 million photographs with her brand new Canon super fancy camera with all kinds of filters and all that. And she took many pictures of this. And yes, sun flares, I get it. I'm not trying to say this is saying anything, but it is the weirdest set of sun flares I have ever seen in my life. And I got this not only from her, and the reason I wanted to show this particular flare, or whatever that is it came from 2 places in the United States, that same look. And I've never seen a flare like that yet.
I mean, seriously, I have never seen one like that myself. I mean, number one, it's pretty, but that's not normal.
And then here we see it's a really good shot of how this halo that's probably the actual size of this halo. Second thing you see is many places where the sun's being blocked.
Yeah, look at that. Steve, can you go up there to the 11 o'clock position? There you go. Yeah, look at that. There we go. So the light's being obfuscated by something.
Right.
Now, you could say that the lens wasn't picking it up, but come on, folks. I mean, the cameras today, the optics are getting much, much better.
So it's getting to the point now, it's not if for me anymore, Wayne. Now it's when are we going to see it? And that's why I was so compelled by your discussion on the time wave theory. I really, really am compelled by that. The other thing too, guys, well, let me show you one more here because this is kind of corroborating. So see how she caught this, I'll go down on the photo here a little bit and slide it over this way. See this? We've been catching multiple expressions of that multicolored orb, right? I caught it on the balloon. Many others have been catching it. But here's the FAA advisory, catching it again.
Look at that.
And then something over here.
Well, I say we should remember what Dr. Farada said, that this is what he said would be happening. Look at that.
Yeah, this was a fast-moving object that moved right across the frame, and they caught it. They saw it over here, and by the time they got their camera, it was almost already gone past the horizon.
Okay, so let's just stop here because
This one was visible with the naked eye, by the way.
All right, so folks, just to let you know as well, the astronomers, the astrophysicists that are stepping up, and yeah, they have their detractors, but we do appreciate them. I know a lot of these people are very afraid of their careers. The point being, these objects, folks, are moving quick, and some move as much as 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you can see how quickly that would go across the horizon.
Well, Wayne, I'm going to correct you. I don't think 1,000,000 miles an hour would be, reasonable. I think that, and again, I'm not trying to step on you or anything. 1,000,000 miles an hour is like several times the speed of light. What I would say is that what we've got here are 2 opposing solar systems moving anywhere between 40,000 and 70,000 kilometers per hour, meeting each other. So that creates 140 to 160,000 kilometers per hour if the 2 bodies come in contact with each other. It's a very fast speed. So I didn't mean to step on you, but 1,000,000 is not right.
Well, the speed of light is what, 186,000 miles per second. So anyway, they're moving quick.
Wait, you're saying per hour. My bad. Anyway,
that's okay.
Let's keep going. But anyway, what we're trying to say, Wayne and I are trying to say, is that these things move at a very high speed. So when people say, I put on my welding goggles and I didn't see anything, it's like, man, we're lucky with our 100,000 viewers around the world and 35,000 of them that are willing to subscribe. But I know I have 3 times as many viewers, is that I have to have that big of a net to get a picture like this. What makes us think that I'm just going to walk outside and see it? If you're lucky, you will.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, it's going to get more visible. And what we're trying to say is, this is like the advanced warning. This is the warning that says, this is the warning before the warning, where everybody that's listening to us can say, okay, let's make preparations. Let's make sure we don't have to be part of the big crowd going to the supermarket and getting in a riot. Let's make sure that we can button down and stay in place if that's what we decide to do, and not risk the family to go out and gather things, or we have a bug out place location ready to go. We have the WSO group structure, which you can go on and I'll leave the links below, where you can be part of a group where they're already starting to make these kinds of plans, preparations together as a group. and give you some options. So I'm not pushing fear porn. We don't make a dime off WSO groups. What we're going to be doing is pumping all of our resources once the organization is up and running, with Wayne's help, by the way, that we are going to be pumping every bit we can into the groups to support those groups with food, radio equipment, anything that we can possibly afford to do. That's what we're going to be doing. So I didn't mean to go on a diatribe there, but I'm not a fear porn person. We're doing something about it, man. We're not going to sit back and wait for this thing to slap us in the head.
No, we're not manufacturing these. By the way, Steve, this looks to be what? Looks to be like California to me, but do you know where this was taken at?
Arizona.
Well, we know what's coming out of there. They seem to be almost like it is over in Germany right now. They seem to be in the pathway of a lot of this. Outstanding, whoever took this, Steve, just outstanding.
I know. So Wayne, to wrap, today, great discussion, by the way. I always love talking to you, Wayne.
Oh, Steve, I'll tell you, it's the favorite thing I look forward to in my week. You are the highlight of it, and from there, I take the energy that is here because, that's the great thing that we're doing here. We're just trying to help and inform, and I think it's the highest honor any human can have is passing on knowledge. And God bless you for your dedication, Steve.
All right. Well, and anybody that doesn't want to hear a spiritual point, you can turn it off now, because I'm going to get real spiritual. Okay. At the end of the day, the gospel that I preach, and the reason that it is a gospel, is because God declared peace 2,000 years ago with us in a big, huge way. Okay. And that peace treaty is in effect. And that peace treaty means that you can go directly to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, Yahweh, and his son, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, and be imbued with help and comfort through his Holy Spirit for free. You do nothing for it. You just walk into it. You just accept it. You come as you are. He takes you as you are. You don't have to change anything. Just come to him. He'll do the changing. Trust me. I know. Wayne, do you know?
I know.
Has he changed you at all in the last 25 years?
Listen, my life is a result of the mercy that I did not deserve. So, yes.
So I'm not trying to proselytize you to a church or to give money based on a religious faith or anything like that. That's not what this organization is about. But it is, to me, step one of your preparation, which is to be connected to the source. And I'm not going to stop talking about that, Wayne. I don't care what anybody says.
And don't. You'll be held accountable for it.
Well, and again, that's what that blood was all about. That it's like, you can run to the throne of grace now. That's the good news. You don't have to shrink. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to any of that. You don't have to you don't have to beat your head in. You don't have to slap yourself with chains. All you got to do is step towards him. And you will see eyes of love shining out from that throne that you have never seen before. And he's not asking you to change one iota. He just wants you to come. When I knock on the door, open it. He's knocking. Open it. That's all you got to do. You are free to go to God. That's the gospel. Human beings are protected. That's the gospel. You can run to his arms. That's the gospel with no preconditions. And with that, I'll end it up, man. That's a good place to stop.
I think it's an excellent place. Bless you, my friend. Bless you.
Bless you too, my friend. Let's see here. I'm going to get this thing. That was a good show, by the way.
That was a great show. I'll be curious to see how it comes out. I love these when we get a chance to do this. It's just